One of the coolest things about Taipei is it has one of the tallest buildings in the world, Taipei 101, which you can see from almost anywhere. Even in the outer suburbs, you can see it, and it's just a huge building. It was actually on the border of one of my areas, so I used to ride my bike past it a lot. But yeah, it's kind of cool. There's lots of other big buildings. It's a really, there's tons of business in Taipei. It's actually, it was actually settled a little bit later than some of the southern cities in Taiwan, and so it's kind of interesting. During Chinese New Year, everyone goes back to their grandparents' house or their original house where they grew up, and so lots of people actually leave Taipei at that time, even though it's probably the biggest city population-wise in Taiwan. Lots of people will leave during the holidays so they can go visit their parents or their grandparents. But yeah, it's a great city. It's super clean for the most part, and the public transportation is awesome. They have probably the best underground railway system that I've ever seen, and it's super convenient. They also have buses. They have as well also something called a U-bike, which is something you can just rent a public bike, and so you'll see lots of people out on these public bikes riding around. The thing about Taipei as well is there's lots of tourists, and so in terms of doing missionary work in Taipei, sometimes it's harder to actually find those people that live in your assigned area, just because the population is so dense. They'll overlap a lot, and then there'll also be lots of tourists coming in, particularly around that Taipei 101 building. And so sometimes it makes missionary work a little bit difficult, but I think finding those niches of places where the people that are in your area reside really help out a lot. And in terms of living conditions, it's pretty nice. Lots of people, everyone lives in pretty much apartment complexes, things like that. And so that's what we as missionaries live in as well. We did have to use a water filter. I believe that's all over Taiwan. But we use the water filter. We have hot showers. We have a fridge, and so living conditions were pretty comfortable from that standpoint. So one thing that's kind of cool is, even though it's a big city, there's lots of cool places to go hiking that are really close, and so on P-Day pretty frequently we'd go hiking, and it's kind of cool because Taipei is kind of almost down in this basin type area. And so there's kind of mountains surrounding it and kind of in the midst of it, which makes it kind of a pretty scenic area, particularly when you get on top of those mountains. And so yeah, it's a great city. I loved it. Like I mentioned, I think Taiwan might be one of the safest places in the world. I never really felt too threatened in Taipei. I did have something stolen off my bike once or twice, but that's about it, right? The people are super nice, and yeah.